Sounds like
That's why I don't.
yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's time. Yeah. Give them about 15 minutes. Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. No, for me, I don't know. Everybody's different. I know. But chemistry got easier as it went. So I don't know how your professors teach it, but they already taught it very nice. Yes, sure. But yeah, I mean, it takes study. It's a different language. So.
Okay, so few questions people had. If your exam grade or quiz grade is not showing up, Blackboard is the weirdest, stupidest program, and the school forces us to use it, so I'm sorry, I apologize. There's nothing I can do. But it's not showing up because for some reason it'll pop up on my side and say, this needs to be graded, which is stupid because it grades things automatically. So I just have to go through and say, okay, and then your grade will show up. So I will do that today because I guess a lot of people still needs to be graded. So I will click through and say, okay, and then you'll have your grade, all right? But you guys should all have had your results at the end of it, yeah? It gives you your score. Okay, so don't freak out if it's not showing up. I'll go through everything today, and by tomorrow, everything should be there, assuming I remember to do it. A couple people have said something about study guides. There are chapter outlines on each section, which, I mean, it's a really good outline of everything that is on there. The way your exams work is I have a big test bank of questions that I have made up on everything that I lecture over, lots of stuff that's in the chapter, and then you get random questions from my pile of questions that I've put together. So if you're wondering what could be on the test, a lot of you text me about that and ask questions. It's basically anything that I lecture over could be on the test. So the PowerPoint is a perfect, like, this is what may be on the test. Because there's a lot of things that are in the chapter that I don't cover in the PowerPoint. So if it's on the PowerPoint, that is like this could definitely be on the test. Because usually when I write up questions, I flip through the PowerPoint and I ask questions based on what's in there. So probably 90% of what's going to be on the exam will be from the PowerPoint. Okay. So when you're studying, it takes about 7 times being exposed to information for the average person to remember it. So that's, you come to class, you read the book again, you look over all of your notes, somebody quizzes you, which is the best way to learn, is to have somebody quiz you with questions. So who is Piaget? What is Freud's theory called? Or so on. Okay, so if you can do study groups with each other, that would be the best thing that you could do. Does anybody have questions now that you've done the first exam? No? Okay.
I found the outline for chapter 1, and I must have stumbled across it because I couldn't find it for any of the other chapters. So what is it listed under?
It should just be under each of the
chapter material.
Chapter material, yeah.
Okay, because I was under chapter 2 and it kept saying chapter 1. I already found that.
Okay, if you see issues like that, just email me or text me, and then I can get it fixed for you. Did anybody else have that problem? No? Okay. And I went through and I changed the name outline to study guide, so it now says study guide for you guys, okay? So hopefully that will help. All right, and I don't know if you guys received my email or not, but you guys really did, overall, you did great on the exam. It's probably the best class average that I've had in years. So you guys really kicked butt on it.
Well, was it a B average?
Yes, it was, I think it was like an 86% average or something, which is really good. I mean, honestly, I've had a class where I failed every single student. Nobody studied. And I asked them, like, why are you guys doing so bad? And every single one of them said, I didn't study for the exam. Okay, well, there's nothing I can do for you if you're not studying. So you guys are, I mean, compared to that class, obviously it's night and day, but even compared to my typical classes, for some reason, the past few years, we've just, and all the professors are complaining about how bad classes have been the past few years. I even know professors that are planning on retiring early because the students are getting so bad, they just feel like there's no point in teaching anymore. So you guys should feel very proud of yourself because the majority of you did awesome on the exam.
And all these tests that have been done, well, pertaining to the Danish way of parenting, helicopter parenting, are we safe to say that we can point to that for maybe the millennials kind of turning out?
I think that is a major piece of it because I think helicopter parenting encourages a learning attitude.
Sure.
I think it's more complicated than that. There's all the technology that kids don't want to read anymore because they're playing on cell phones.
We were just talking about that this morning, the Danish way of parenting, and we were talking about how, in my perspective, also, it's a lack of desire to learn because we are hammering these kids at school. It's, I mean, I complain at my staff meetings about the number of tests these kids are given. And all we're doing is preparing them for testing. We're not really having fun and learning. It's just, get this, because we're going to be testing on it. So,
and there's still, and somehow kids are getting through that system and still not learning how to take the test. Like I've had to explain to so many students how to use a Scantron. I'm like, how do you get through, I don't understand how you get through the California K-12 system without understanding Scantron.
we don't
Especially,
do Scantrons. No, we don't do that. It's all, we've gone to analytical thinking and writing out your answers.
well, that's good. That's better.
ABCD is gone, and now
But they can't, most of my students can't do that either. Honestly, I think this class is an exception. I'm really enjoying teaching you guys because I've had classes where, like for instance, the Planned Parenthood video, which is shocking, right? This is planned genocide in our country. And I've had, you guys are the students that have reacted the most to that. I've had classes where they don't say a word. I'm like, do you guys find this interesting? Do you find it shocking? And usually the only response I get is, well, still, if you want to have an abortion, it's up to you. That's not the point of the video. Like, how can you guys not get the point of the video? So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah, we over-push testing, we over-push learning even at a young age. I mean, there's kindergartens that have taken away recess because they need to be focusing on reading and writing and math. No, they should be finger painting and eating dirt out in the playground.
So we've turned them off then.
Right. So by the time you get to college, you hate learning. I mean, I asked you guys how many of you have read a book for fun in the past month, and almost all of you raised your hand. I have had classes where nobody raised their hand, which is just horrifying to me. They just don't like doing it. They don't like reading. Yeah.
My mom's an elementary school teacher, and she was telling me that even like for kindergarten, one of their prerequisites now is they want them to be reading before they even get into kindergarten.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, there are some kids who read early, and that's great for them. But then there's also kids who are just late bloomers, and especially boys, they don't do as well in the school system until a later age. So if you're pushing them to sit still, to read, to do all this stuff before they're ready, then they're going to hate school. Whereas, like in Finland, they don't start until 7 years old, and by 7 years old, even most boys are ready to focus in school. But if you're asking a 5-year-old to sit still and focus, how in the world could you like school after that? You're constantly in trouble, and then you're put in the dumb kids group, the slow reader group, which everybody knows those are the dumb kids, right? And so then you feel like you're stupid, that you're not good at school, and all it is the school system is screwing up. But you feel like you are screwed up. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things. We're not letting kids play outside, and then you have so much energy, you can't focus to read a book. We let our kids watch things that their mind is not prepared for. Like I saw Jurassic World over the weekend, and it was not enjoyable to watch because I was sitting surrounded by, I felt like the kindergarten group had gone on a field trip because so many parents had brought their little babies to watch dinosaurs rip people's bodies apart. And I thought, these are the same parents who in 10 years are going to be going, I don't know why my kids shot up their school, I don't understand it. Well, maybe you shouldn't have let this kid watch 2 T-Rexes throwing an arm, to each other, which is what happened in the movie. Well, not T-Rexes, but whatever. Indoraptors or whatever the stupid thing was. GMO dinosaurs. Sorry if I gave it away. Wasn't really that great of a movie, period. But, so,
Can
yeah,
you
I
tell
mean-
me, is this true? My administrator told me a while back, I said, my kids are nothing like these kids, and they're the same age at the time, they're the same age, yet these kids seem a little more fast than my kids. They seem more innocent, in my opinion. And she
the
said,
kids back then were
at my
innocent?
middle school, they're fast and, they're developed and,
Yeah.
some of these boys, the 8th graders look like men, and the girls look like,
Yeah.
they have been stuck behind for a long time, but they're just 12. And she said, what it is what they watch on TV, what they're exposed
I
to,
think that's part of it.
does something to their hormones and makes them react faster. If they weren't exposed to it, they would not develop as fast. Is that true?
I haven't seen research on that, but it makes sense. So theoretically, I would agree with that. Because you have to think, like, the human body is designed to survive. So let's say you have a child growing up in a really stressful situation, starvation, war zone, something like that, then the body has lots of mechanisms to try to continue survival and adapt. So it could be possible that that high level of stress hormones induces something that speeds up maturation, so that that child now has a better chance of survival.
All
'Cause
the
if you-
hormones in food.
well, there's all the hormones in food too, all the
So much more
toxins.
now.
There's so many toxins in our environment that are endocrine disruptors. So yeah, but I mean, I'm
But
sure
I mean, they are
stress.
sexually,
Oh,
in
yes.
their mind,
They're also
they
watching
feel
it.
that they're ready
Yeah.
and all of that.
Mhm.
So I'm just,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'm
and-
shocked by it because,
The
looking
12-year-old
at
when
my
I
own
was a
kids.
kid is like the 17-year-olds when I was a kid.
Right.
Yeah, our 12-year-old now is like 17-year-olds when I was a kid. And the 12-year-olds when I was a kid, they were just like innocent little
12-year-olds.
12-year-olds, yeah, with no fashion sense. And if their parents let them wear makeup, it was usually snuck. They weren't allowed to. But if they wore makeup, then it was done terribly. And now, like, 12-year-olds know how to contour. And,
Yeah.
I'm
They're
not as
watching
good as
YouTube
my makeup
videos.
today as, today's 12-year-olds are. Somebody have their hand up?
I know as far as like our food, we do know that there's a lot of hormones in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And my best friend's daughter, she's 3, and my best friend was asking me, hey, do you know why Kai she just turned 3 in January. Do you know why Kai gets so musty? Like she smells like she ran a track meet and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, because she drinks whole milk. And I explained to her, because my son, we use almond milk and stuff like that. And I explained to her, like, whole milk has a lot of hormones and it made me try to switch it. She was like, you know, it's like a lot of things in milk. So she took it to her doctor. She asked the doctor, and the doctor was like, well, yeah, maybe you should switch your milk because, it does have a lot of hormones and it speeds up the process. And I was telling my sister, same thing to my niece. She's 6 and I swear it's like she's a wrestler or something because it smells so bad. I'm just like.
Well, I had a student who came up to me and she said, I'm really upset because my daughter started her period and I don't know how to deal with it. And I'm like, well, honey, everybody's daughter has to start a period at some point. She goes, yeah, but she's 5 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, yep. And it is
5
it's
years
the
old.
hormones, yeah. And that's happening, this is a documented fact backed up by research that all the hormones in food and all the hormone disruptors that we have in our food system are causing puberty to start earlier for girls and later for boys. And
If you
physically,
look
that's
at
bad.
most 4th, 5th, and 6th grade girls, they already need bras
Yeah,
these days.
that was unheard of when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, junior high, there's barely kids who are starting to need bras. Yeah.
See, but that's the thing, is that we're talking food, but my kids, were kind of like slower in maturation, physical maturation. So I'm thinking, maybe it is what they're watching, because these kids watch things
I think
that
it's a combination.
I think is, is inappropriate,
Oh, yeah.
sexual content and that kind of thing, and I think maybe their body is putting out something that tells them that
Yeah,
they're
because
more
stress is a hormonal system. So, and if any hormone gets released, it's affecting a whole cascade of other hormones.
mature. And the food, and
Yeah, so you have this whole crap storm of things going wrong. And then all of those hormones are going to affect the way the brain develops. So especially if your child is under a great deal of stress, their brain is not going to develop appropriately, intellectually speaking. You have to, I mean, just think of yourself. When you go to take your exam and you blank out and you're like, I studied all of this, now I can't remember a thing. That's because of stress hormones. So now you're raising children just awash in stress hormones all the time. Their brain isn't going to develop appropriately. And then on top of it, we also have this low-fat diet fad that we've had since the 70s, when the government decided to tell us eating fat was bad for us, and we all bought into it. And your brain is made of a lot of fat. And if your children are not eating enough fat, their brain won't develop appropriately. So, I mean, there's so many factors of why kids are doing bad in school. But it's a, yeah. I mean, basically, you need to be feeding your kids better. You need to be avoiding as much TV and electronics as possible, getting your kids outside unsupervised. It's so scary. You know, and raising your kids like they were raised in the 80s, and then they'll do better. So, I don't know, you guys are an exception to most of my classes, so tell your parents they must have done a pretty good job. I don't know if they did something right there.
Yeah, no, it's true, like growing up, our parents just let us go, like in the hills.
Mm-hmm.
We go out for hours, like 4 or 5 hours, just climbing and
Yeah.
exploring different ways to go.
Street
It's,
lights come on, you
And when the
gotta
street,
Yes.
yeah, it's,
Yeah, be home when the street lights come on.
And it was young. We're not talking like 12-year-olds. We're talking, if there was an older kid, your 4-year-old was out playing outside because the older kids watch them. And now we're like horrified. Like a 6-year-old babysitting a 4-year-old, that's just not possible. Yeah.
Judge each other.
Yeah, we are very judgmental, and we think kids are stupid,
I think it's sad at a young age. So young is
right? And now your parents would be arrested for child endangerment.
Maybe 14, right? 14 to legally be left alone at home by
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm not sure, because California, I don't think California actually, I'm not sure what California's rules are. Each state has a different rule. So, yeah, but before you leave your kids alone, look that up. And I don't think we have an age where kids are allowed to be left in a car alone. So that's another thing. Although CPS doesn't care what the rules are. They'll still take your kids away. And then they'll like sue us. So you still have to be careful. Yeah. I have a friend who's a CPS worker, and she said, I'm going to turn the heat down. I'll pop the heat on for you guys because I'm looking. She said that she doesn't care if it's illegal or not. If she thinks it's bad for your kids, she's going to take your kids away. And you can fight it in the court system. So. Nice, huh? So I asked her, would you let, if somebody let a kid walk home from school by themselves, would you take their kids away? And she said, yes. I don't think kids should be walking home by themselves. She said, I don't care what age.
3rd grade, I was walking home by myself.
Yeah.
The school called me. My son was 10, and they called me and said, "Do you know that Max is walking home from school like a little mile away?"
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's
Yeah,
exercise too.
My sister's school, you have to sign a special note to let kids walk home alone, and then they look at you like, why would you do this to your child? Because it's good for them?
So a 9-year-old on a subway system, that's definitely unacceptable.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
World's worst mom.
But you know, Denmark, kindergartners are using the bus system. The subway, well, I don't think they have a subway, but they're using the bus system. Public transportation.
It's cultural.
Oh yeah, super cultural. Super cultural. And then it sort of feeds on itself because now, you know, when I was a kid, you let your kid play outside and there was 20 other kids from the neighborhood playing outside. Although, not so much where I grew up, but where a lot of people grew up, there would be tons of kids outside. So, the neighborhood I grew up, parents wouldn't let their kids out either. But maybe that's because it was a gaming smarter than my mom. But I had a great childhood. Never got shot, had a gun pulled on us once, but it was a joke. I didn't think it was funny, but the guy who did it is an adult. Van pulled up. I remember we were walking down the street, my little sister was in front of me, maybe 6, 7 years old, and the van pulled up,
That is not funny.
and he pulled, I think it was a rifle. It could have been a shotgun, one of the long ones, out the window, pointed it at her, and I just thought, that's it, my sister's gonna be killed right in front of me, there's nothing I can do, I'm like 20 feet away. And then he just pulled back in, laughed, and they drove off. Yeah, that's not funny. I remember I went home and I told my parents, and of course that's horrifying. And then I thinking back, I'm like, you guys never called the cops about that. That's what happens when you grow up in a ghetto area. It's just like, that's just how it is. Standard issue, yeah.